keen to engage you, you know.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Well, you was asking me a few questions. So before we I get started on my presentation, if you want to ask those questions to address, we can start with that dialogue.
Sure. Well, the question I wanted to ask you, because everybody is talking about crypto and some about hyperverse and some about blockchain, but it seems to be a regular discussion. And it's as if, ordinary people have come into the knowledge of something that they can control without being manipulated by government and big financial institutions. And that's very gratifying. I'm very pleased, that we're coming into something where we can't be pushed around. These are things that we can make intelligent or ignorant decisions upon, but it's still ours to make a good or an informed or an uninformed decision about. So the question I wanted to ask you, because everybody's speaking about this area, what kind of fundamental knowledge do we really need to take advantage of this great opportunity? Because if one doesn't know when to buy, if one doesn't know when to sell, then this could be a space, even though it's offering great opportunity, but it also can turn into a bitter nightmare. So what are the fundamentals that we need to know to really benefit from this great opportunity of blockchain, metaverse, and cryptocurrency, my sister?
So there's a couple of pieces to that question that you asked me. And one is definitely from a fundamental standpoint, and I talk about this, is when you deal with the first thing that I did a boot camp this weekend. And I told them, before I can talk to you about cryptocurrency, I have to talk to you about the cryptocurrency investor mindset.
Yes.
Because, and being able to what I call locate yourself. So oftentimes we can't locate ourselves in a moment in time.
Yes.
And one of the things that from a fundamental standpoint is to understand that you're early in something.
Yes.
We are still an early adapter and adopter to this space. Mass adoption has not taken place yet.
Right.
And I was just at the North American Bitcoin conference last week in Miami. And one of the things that they talked about as it relates to from metaverse to blockchain to cryptocurrency, because they're all intertwined, is that, right now where we are in this space, gaming and the metaverse will bring mass adoption faster.
Right. Right.
And so when you think about, and I'll use this because Meta, Facebook, and so forth, they actually brought the metaverse to the public, to the masses, to the attention of the masses. Let me say that.
Right.
And so when you think about, Facebook and so forth, Facebook was one of the platforms that probably got some of our parents online.
Yes. Exactly. Very true.
It was like, well, my friend says she's on this thing called Facebook. And so when you think about what will bring us online is something, it's not necessarily, it's something like a Facebook that brings us, everyone online. And so gaming, because gaming and the metaverse, and I'll go into a deeper detail, a deeper dive of what I'm talking about. But just from a fundamental standpoint, the first thing you have to understand is that this is not a short-term game.
Right.
This is a long-term game, that this is like being when the internet first came out.
Right.
And when the internet first came out, it was, it was wild, wild west. You had people who were of, in the older generation talking about it wouldn't last, no one will ever buy something online. The same thing that they're speaking about the metaverse and blockchain and cryptocurrency right now.
Right.
Well, if a company like Facebook came out and talked about Meta and is changing their name, they have to know something.
Right.
And the only, now that Meta, and we'll talk about this, is centralized. Facebook is centralized. They're just reshaping and rebranding how they're data harvesting.
Right.
The decentralized blockchain and metaverses, when you think about that, only cryptocurrency will be used in them.
Right.
The same way right now, you can't give cash. If you want to buy something online, you can't pay cash for it.
Right.
You have to have a Visa card, you have to have a debit card or a PayPal account, some way to on-ramp and off-ramp that money.
Very good.
So the same thing is going to happen in the crypto. So if you only can use cryptocurrencies in this space, what do you think is going to happen to the cryptocurrency market when mass adoption starts to take place?
Right.
So fundamentally, you have to have an investor mindset that allows you to have an investor strategy to have buckets of money, what I call buckets of money for you. And those buckets of money is your short term, your mid-term, and your long term, where you decide where you want to take profit. That allows you to not play. It's like owning Amazon and Google and so forth. You know, if you bought it in 2000 and you sold it in 2002, you might be mad in 2005.
Right.
So when you look at some of the blue chip cryptocurrencies that's available and that will, you know, be that Amazon, that Google, or one of them, because there'll be a lot more than, you know, than them, then you know that from a fundamental standpoint, let me invest in something solid and let me put this and let me set it and forget it, is what I call it. And then for the ones that you want to take profit on in the short term, so that you know when to get in and get out, you just set what your target is for that. And then you take your profits, because, and if it's a coin that you want to hold long term, you already have that in your long term holding bank, if you want to say. So those would be the fundamentals. And then you can keep recycling that short term for new industries. Like metaverse wasn't a category at one time in the cryptocurrency space. So now I tell people from a short term perspective, right now, gaming is going to be hot in the space. Yes. Because gaming is already huge. And now when you add metaverse to it, and really it's everybody playing a game. And so, and I'll go into a little deeper detail, but from just a fundamental standpoint that, you know, look at this, is that you're an early adopter in this, and you're part of when smartphones came out in 2008. Right. And now if you're over 3 and don't have a smartphone, you know, it's like you're behind in the time now. 2-year-olds like, I can't wait to turn 3 so I can get a smartphone, because
oh, your parents are evil.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, so that's where I would say, just from a fundamentals, you have to stay plugged in, you have to stay connected to the space. You have to stay educated, because it's evolving and it's always changing. Understanding that it's not a get rich quick. Can you get rich quick? Yes, but that is not the goal, because even once you amass some type of riches, you want to turn those into wealth, and that you're utilizing this as a tool. So you're not emotional about what the market is doing.
Right. Right. So essentially, you know, this is a space that, you know, we all have to engage in some kind of organized, structured study.
Yes.
And to the degree that we organize and structure and be willing to pay for our education will determine how far we go in this space. Would you go that far to say such?
I would go even further than that, in that most of us have had a struggle with finances and money in our lives, simply because we didn't understand the financial system that we operate in currently.
Right.
And so now that there's a new financial system that's being ushered in, whether we like it or not, nobody's coming to get your vote. They're not asking your opinion about whether it's going to happen. You know, right. The same way they didn't do with the internet, the same way that they didn't do with smartphones. And either you
Right.
participated or you were just a consumer of it. It's that is, and you know, we can look back and say, well, I wish I would have, you know, somebody told me about Bitcoin. I wish I would have known about Bitcoin when it first came out. Most likely you wouldn't have done anything then.
Right. Right.
Because if you don't have, because for some reason, until we feel that we believe that it's happening, we don't act, or we act in a very small way. But, you know, and in this presentation, I'll show that if you just follow the money, because if you haven't amassed the type of money that you've liked to, or have created millions for yourself, it's typically because we don't know how. And
so demographically, who would you say amongst us are the most uneducated or apprehensive? Is it males? Is it females? Is it elders, or is it young people? Who's the most difficult to appeal to in this
it's
space?
More so elders.
Right. And give me some kind of context of an elder.
So I would say someone, so you see like typically, and I'm bringing the age down some, but just say 60 and older.
Right. So most of you on this line, you've got some hope, okay?
Yeah, we see that. That's where we see the apprehension, and the apprehension comes from two places. One is the technology,
right?
And two is the mindset that the fiat dollar is so real to them,
right? Right.
And it seems like there's nothing else that can replace it. Although they're operating in digital money right now, some of them even struggle with the digital part of doing them. So a lot of it is the learning the technology and unlearning the attachment to the current currency that is being used, and the attachment to the current physical world that they're used to operating in.
Powerful.
Now that bleeds over to some of us as well.
Say that again.
I said, now that bleeds over even into some of your younger generation, where their attachment to the physical world, not realizing how much you're playing in the digital world right now. Anytime you go get on Facebook, anytime you get on your phone and send a text message, you FaceTime, you have entered into the digital world.
Right.
You're not in the physical world any longer. But most of us can't recognize that, because it's become so normal, and it seems like, oh no, it's the physical world too. But no, it's not. If you're on Facebook, if you don't get on a computer or a device, you're not in the physical world.
Right.
The only difference is that we believe because we're on a physical device, that it seems physical, it seems real, it seems like it's real to us.
Right.
But it seems physical to us. And that's how the metaverse is going to explode and open up, because of it merges the reality of the physical and the digital world.